News Radio 840 WHAS. Coming up on today's Louisville Real Estate Show, how do you declare your mom or your dad incompetent? It's a serious subject. Also, what about these VA third-party inspections? And are you itching? Is it a house problem? We'll talk about that. And what happens if a buyer or seller backs out of a contract to buy or sell a home at the last minute? Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Sokoler, owner of the Sokoler team, Remax Properties. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday. We've got a lot of important questions to deal with on today's show, and I hope you stay with it throughout the entire half hour till the top of the hour. With us for the next half hour, Brad Lawler. He's owner of Home Team Inspection Service. They come in as a team. They do their due diligence, get you inspected. And he also owns Team Bug Out, so he can get rid of those pesky little bugs that might be crawling in and out of your house. You can reach Brad at 844-411-TEAM. Also here, Cora Henderson. She is one of the big shots over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. They do a phenomenal job of getting your loan closed and a variety of other things, including wills, and that's going to come into play in just a few moments. You can reach Cora and her crew at 895-9900. And if you were thinking of selling your home now or in the future, I would love to help you. No home too big, no home too small. And really, we work both in the Louisville, Kentucky area and surrounding areas and in southern Indiana. You can reach me anytime on my cell phone, 376-LIVE or 376-5483. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com and click on the information there and insert your information. And then you can also get a free computer estimate immediately by going to WeSellLouisville.com and clicking at the top of the page. All right, folks, here we go. Let's strap in. This is for Cora Henderson over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys. Cora, Steve writes in. He is worried about his mother, who's in her early 90s. She's forgetting almost everything. She can't remember where her bedroom is in her home. And he's wondering, so what does he do? Does he declare her mentally incompetent? And selfishly, he writes, to protect her from giving the house away and his inheritance. He's saying, what's the litmus test for mentally incompetence, and what should he do? Cora.
Well, hello, Steve. First of all, great genes in the 90s. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like she has lived a long life, and hopefully you will as well. So kudos to the good genes there. You know, as for kind of this sensitive topic, I think so many of us have aging loved ones in our life, and we may or may not have reached a point where, we start to scratch our heads going, is this just, brain fog, or, do we have something to worry about here? Is this, the early signs of dementia, or is this going to be just, mere forgetfulness? So there can definitely be some concerns there, and that's why we have trusted professionals. So, you might be kind of putting the cart before the horse to file an immediate action in the court, motioning the court to declare her, insolvent and incompetent, unable to handle her financial affairs, so on and so forth, to make sure that you're protecting the keys to the kingdom, although that may end up being, a step if you need to be appointed, her guardian or someone else to kind of protect those assets and protect her as well. But before you get to that point, I know you said you kind of, she doesn't know where the bedroom is, which is concerning. But, I think whether it's that or for other listeners involved and they just may not know kind of where our loved one is on that path, there are so many great trusted professionals that are in it for the right reason who can come to the house, sit down at the kitchen table, have a cup of coffee, and talk to your mom, talk to your aging loved one, ask some questions. These are professionals. So it's not like it's, they're going to have them do, some standardized test, or they're going to get clammed up. I mean, this is what they deal with on a daily basis. There's also some wonderful elder law attorneys that have those folks on staff. There are some specialists that handle these transitions, if you will, whenever an aging loved one can no longer live by themselves or support themselves and need to move to an assisted living or full-time care or even memory care. And so I think identifying those professionals and have them do the quote-unquote litmus test, if you will, to see where you're at on that spectrum. Is this something where we just need to monitor? Is this something we need to get her in front of additional healthcare professionals, possible medication and or diagnoses? And then ultimately, is it so severe that maybe we've missed the boat or this happened so rapidly, we need to proceed and motion the court and looking about, some sort of, whether it be disability judgment or guardianship order, so that you can help protect and preserve your parent, your mother and her assets. So there's just a multitude of questions, but I think it really comes with first just knowing that, maybe your gut instincts are the right ones. And so engaging in those professionals not only helps ask the right questions in a comfortable, assuring, confident way with the aging loved one, but then also they're going to have those tools. They're going to be able to tell you, okay, here's the next step. Here's the person that you need to talk to. Is it an elder law attorney so that you can help preserve those assets if they are going to receive state care? Do we need to set up an irrevocable trust? Again, do we need to have a guardianship in place? And an elder law attorney would be a great resource for that.
Corin, so this actually, it's really important because you're taking the guilt trip off of your shoulders and putting it on a
100%.
professional, which is so important because you don't want to think that you're the one who caused this or that. So again, let's just cut down to it. Oh, so you mentioned elder law a number of times. Do we have, and I guess people could contact me and I can put them in contact with you, or is there someone you would recommend over the radio at this point? I don't want to.
Sure, happy to. I mean, there are a multitude of great qualified professionals, but unfortunately, there's a lot of elder fraud, financial exploitation, et cetera. Right. And I think that's what Steve's worried about. He's worried about somebody, calling and taking advantage of his mom. So I know that I've taken classes from this individual, and I know she is an outstanding practitioner. I've referred my own family members to her, and that's Misty Clark Van Treese at Kentucky Elder Law. She's one of the owners there. She has a team of attorneys and other professionals like we spoke about, but she's always kind of my go-to resource. There's, like I said, there's some other qualified ones as well. I don't want to leave anyone out, but Misty teaches a lot of the attorneys too, does a lot of CLE classes, both locally and, nationally. And again, I've referred my own family members to her. So she's a fantastic resource. She's actually experienced that firsthand, with her family. And I think that means a lot when you're talking to somebody who's gone through the exact same thing that you're going through.
So I'll tell you what, if any of the elder law folks are listening to us right now, if they want to reach out to me, we'll put you on a list and provide that as a service to anybody who's listening who needs some help.
That'd be awesome. And best of luck, Steve, and hang in there.
If you want to see a rebroadcast of today's show, very simple. You can go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. That's LouisvilleAnswers.com, and it will give you a replay of not only this show, but all of our shows that are out there. Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service. Elliot sent us this email, and he's in the process of buying a new construction home. It's a VA loan with 0% down. The builder's covering all the closing costs. Since it was a model home, it's coming with upgrades and whistles, all the bells and whistles. The builder mentioned, Brad, that the home has passed all county inspections since its new construction, and the builder is asking Elliot to waive a home builder like yourself inspection, a third-party inspection, but they're not forcing them to waive it. Is this deal too good to be true? Your thoughts on this, Brad?
Well, that in setting aside the VA loan for just a minute, that is not uncommon for us to hear from every builder about the home that they built. All new construction homes, builders believe that because of the county inspections, because of the code inspections, that it's enough. The problem is, and I'm please don't hear me say that there are bad builders out there. But when we are doing inspections on new construction homes, oftentimes we find defects. Where you typically find the defect is where one subcontractor's work meets another subcontractor's work. For instance, you've got the ductwork is put in for the HVAC system. The flooring guy comes in behind it, forgets to cut out the supplies, so there's no ducts into a bedroom, for instance. Very, very common situation. A lot of problems with exterior siding, particularly when you're talking about the James Hardy plank type of installations. So new construction inspections are always encouraged. It's rare for a builder to say, no, you can't inspect a house. I mean, sometimes we have to jump through some flaming hoops to get to check all the boxes, and the builder's just trying to protect their home, and I understand that. But this is where we find homes that with no insulation in them. That's not part of a code inspection. No, there's no code enforcement officer checking in an attic to see whether or not there's insulation in there. So only a home inspector is going to find that. The building superintendent should find it. But these are things that are overlooked in the process. So as it relates to a VA loan or some of the others that require what are called minimum property requirements or MPRs, those standards are just basically anything that's going to get captured during the standard home inspection is going to resolve the issue for the VA loan. There's not a separate VA loan inspector that comes in. There are VA loan appraisers. They are looking at some of the similar things. Again, they are looking to make sure a house is safe, sound, and sanitary. And those are the conditions the appraiser is looking for, same conditions that the inspector is looking for. But I would just tell anybody looking at new construction, hire your own inspector to do that new construction inspection report. If nothing else, it just becomes another checklist for the builder to work through. Bob, we've worked a lot of your clients that have built new homes, and there's always a little bit of this, a little bit of that needs to be addressed. And when you've got a disinterested third party in it, it's easier for us to just come in and say, hey, look, it is what it is. Get back with your subs and make the repairs. And again, we want to have great relationships with builders in the area, but again, it's just where one company's work meets another.
Yeah, and I'll give this story out to a lot of my clients. I know personally because I was involved with the purchase representing the buyer of a big builder in town, extremely big builder. And what they would do, as we found out, is they would put the trusses. Those are the things that sit at the top that the roof attaches to, and they use a crane to lift it up. Well, the last end ones on either side, they use the crane, but it also went through. Brad, what's the wrap? But besides the tie wrap, there was some sort of something that prevented airflow and creatures from getting in on the last edge of the truss, right?
Well, there's just another bit of sheathing that goes over to seal those pieces up, right?
Right. So they put the crane through it, making a hole, but never cleaned it up, never fixed it, never patched it.
Right.
And so inspectors came in, Brad and his team came in, they found it, and now they required that because otherwise, let's face it, you got creatures that be coming in from the outside. So that's just a small microcosm of what is important when you're buying new construction and why you want an inspector, whether it's Home Team or another one, but to come out and on your behalf and be another set of eyes. A reminder, if you'd like to see some of the reviews that we have, as you should be when you're hiring anybody, including builders, look for the reviews online. Our reviews, we made simple to see. Go to LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com. We're proud of our reviews, and we think you'll appreciate how people feel about us when they work with us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, what happens if a buyer or seller backs out of the purchase of or sale of your home at the last moment? We'll talk about that. Staying with us through the break, Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service. They come in as a team. They're the #1 home team inspection service in the country, 10 years in a row. That's quite an honor, folks. You can reach Brad and also Team Bug Out to get rid of the pests. 844-411-TEAM. Also staying with us, Cora Henderson. She's one of the big shots over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. They do a great job of getting your loan closed, and they're convenient. They got locations all over our area, including Southern Indiana. You can reach Cora 895-9900. Thinking of selling your home now in the future or buying a home? I'd love to be able to help you. It's me. Call me. I'll come out, whether it's the Louisville area, surrounding counties, or Southern Indiana. You can reach me at 376-5483. That's 376-LIVE. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com, fill out the forms. And for that free instant analysis on your computer, go to WeSellLouisville.com and click at the top of the page. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS. Thank you, Barbara Corcoran, Shark Tank fame. I don't know if you follow Barbara on Facebook. This past week, they published a whole series of new pictures of Barbara and all the Shark Tank people over on ABC. Great group of people. I've met a couple of them. And also, Barbara, thank you for being a mentor. I'm Bob Sokoler. And if you're thinking of selling your home now in the future, I'd love to help you. You can reach me on my cell phone, 376-5483, or go to bobsellslouisville.com. Also staying with us, Cora Henderson. She's one of the big persons over there at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC, a great attorney, and they do a great job of closing your loan. 895-9900. And Brad Lawler is staying with us as well. Home Team Inspection Service. You can reach him for that or for Team Bug Out. If you've got a pest problem, they can take care of it. 844-411-TEAM. So you're buying a house or you're selling a house, and all of a sudden, last minute, the buyer or the seller backs out on you. What can be done? So let's talk, Cora Henderson, about the buyer backing out. The buyer can lose earnest money. Maybe, right?
That is correct. So it all depends. I mean, typically, it's either called breach of contract or an anticipated breach of contract, or you're going to argue breach of contract. So it just depends, if in fact that buyer was backing out of the contract under a valid contingency. One of the most common valid contingencies is one, inspection, right? Typically you'll have a right to inspect, not always if you haven't reserved that in the contract, but typically you'll have a right to inspect and kind of have a free look, if you will, to some extent, maybe 10 days, 8 days, whatever. And if you don't like it, you can get out for any reason, but not always the case. But inspection contingency, very common. Secondly, the financing contingency, also very common. But there's a lot of other stipulations that go along with the proper exercise of those contingencies that can also be argued. So it's never as clear cut as you think. But I know what you're getting to, Bob. A lot of times these days, both buyers and sellers, they just get cold feet. So whether it's buyer's remorse or sellers change their mind, change of circumstances, and they have no contingencies, but they want to back out of the contract. And so at best, they'll be risking that earnest money deposit if you're the buyer, but it doesn't stop there. There could be a multitude of other damages that could be sought after.
Including commissions sought after by the realtors on both
By
sides.
the defaulting party.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Regardless of whether that party was paying it. If they were the defaulting party, the breaching party, they could be held liable.
So now let's talk about a seller backing out. So you are the buyer. You love this home. You want to move into this home, and the seller says,
yeah,
I changed my mind. Now, what happens?
Well, the buyer's heartbroken. And when I see that happen, the buyer ain't going to let it go. They pictured themselves and their families living there. They probably lost a few houses because our market is so tight and we have hardly any inventory. Sellers, if you're listening to this, time to list, okay? So if the seller decides to back out and they have no contingency, there was nothing in place allowing them to just throw their hands up and refuse to sell, albeit they have a valid contract. There's no earnest money there for the buyer to use, but there could be damages. What do those look like? We touched on commissions. There could be moving expenses. There could be loan fees, appraisals, inspections, anything and everything that they may have incurred as a result of relying on that contract thus far, they may try to go after. But also, Bob, I tell you what's real dangerous is what we call dominoes. So if the buyer is selling their house because they're buying this one, and then it becomes a domino. Think of them lined up, right? Because a lot of people, they have to sell a house to buy a house, right? And if that's the case, you're letting down other parties by your breach as well, and they could come after you. Yeah. So dominoes doesn't just mean that buyer's going to come after them. It could be other parties that could have claim to that seller because they've created a domino situation.
And you do have an avenue. You have, sorry to interrupt, but you have an avenue of mediation or arbitration. Both can get costly, and it's not a guarantee that either one side or the other side is going to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so typically, at least under our local board contract, the dispute resolution method will be mediation and then arbitration, in which case arbitration will be final. And we have that in there because it's very affordable. It's private, as opposed to having a court case that could draw on for a long time and cost even more. And so those dispute resolution methods, while they are, more confidential, more cost friendly, they're not cheap. And so mediators alone, you're talking about several $100s per session, and each side pays their own. And that doesn't include if you bring your own attorney and you're paying their fees. And when you get to arbitration, it's thousands of dollars. With arbitration, it's like a courtroom in a conference room. And so rules of evidence apply. You're going to want an attorney then. And it's just, it can quickly grow, to quite a bit of money. So there's always that risk reward too, which, is unfortunate because if a seller or buyer for that matter backs out after one day under contract, let's say, there may not be a lot of damages for that one day. And so whether it's that instance or someone's arguing over, $500, we always try to say risk versus reward. I mean, we live in a litigious society and, right, wrong, or indifferent, is it worth you paying more just to get that back, just to reap that amount of money back? So we always counsel people on that. Give us a call at Pitt and Frank, and we'd be delighted to discuss if you have issues, resolution, disputes, things of that nature.
All right, we move on. Brad Lawler, Home Team Inspection Service. And by the way, let me remind folks that you can head to LouisvilleSellersTalk.com if you want to see what some of the sellers and really buyers are also saying about us, our team. All right, so Brad Lawler, here's the thing. I have a personal stake in this next question. Tabitha sent in an email with regards to her skin. She says she is itching, and she's not sure why. I have the stake because I itch in my back, and luckily I have my adorable, lovely wife, LaDonna, there, who will scratch the middle of the back of it. But I did buy some back scratchers, so she's not around, but she does a great job. Anyway, so Tabitha is wondering, okay, she's not sure if it's related to humidity in her house. Is there anything that she, and then maybe some of our listeners who are there right now listening, can do with regard to itching?
Yeah. So good question. Really common question, particularly in the wintertime, because yes, the heat dries out the air in our homes, and the humidity level in the air outside is normally lower during the cold weather. Anyway, as the temperatures rise, so does the relative humidity because the air is able to hold more moisture. So what we find in the winter is that if you do not have a humidifying system of some type in your house, then yeah, you may have, when you get shocked when you reach for a doorknob or hit the light switch. If those things are happening, then you have very low humidity levels in your house. You need to add some moisture. How can you do that? Well, there's whole house systems. A lot of modern HVAC systems will be able to drop water into a pad, and the air blows across the pad and picks up moisture, and it balances the level in the house. If you don't have that, you can add a humidifier. As kids, we had those cool mist, vaporizers that mom would put in the room when we were feeling sick. Those work really well. There's other ultrasonic ones that don't leave quite the same type of moisture mess on different surfaces. Those work. I mean, there's other things you can do. I mean, people will keep a little kettle on. Put some tea bags in it, or some dried fruits, and just keep that boiling throughout the day. Just adding a little bit of water to the air. That's going to help. The other thing I would say, and this is a little bit of a stretch. If you're living in a house that's very wet, though, where you could potentially have some mold concerns because the moisture in your house, mold will sometimes cause itchiness. It might cause some tingling in your sinuses. May have feeling like an allergies, like hay fever. Those are kind of similar symptoms to mold as well. So if the house is super super damp, it may be an opposite problem and potentially a mold type of issue rather than a dry air issue.
All right.
Well, and
Hopefully,
Brad, I recently purchased a humidifier. The Care Pot is amazing. Oh, they're a little pricey. Get them on sale. It's so easy to clean. So all my girlfriends have one. I'm telling you, it's all the rage and worth it.
is it whole house?
No, unfortunately
Oh,
not.
okay.
But like we use ours in the bedroom. I mean, you can get some for much larger living, like even an apartment size.
Yeah.
I bought the one just from our bedroom, and it's just so easy. It has a little stainless tub that comes out. It's just so easy to clean, which I love because I do suffer from allergies. So it concerns me to have something that could be creating a mold growth. And so we don't want that. So definitely look for a humidifier that doesn't encourage that mold growth.
All right.
Yeah.
We move on, and this is a personal problem I'm having. You may have heard about it in the media. We are a family here on our show, and I want to bring in Cora and Brett also, because feel free to ask me questions about this. And that is the following. You may have heard that there is somebody in this world who is trying to impersonate me using my given name of Robert Sokoler and one of my businesses. And the scam is like this. He calls pretending to be me, saying that he has a variety of employees. I think 20 is what I've heard. And he wants to convert them from 1099s, which are independent persons, into salary of W-2s. The Better Business Bureau has done a story and put out a press release. They said this is the first time that anybody's combined identity fraud with tax evasion, which is what this guy's doing. The Louisville Police Department's on this as well, and they're going after a grand jury to indict this guy if they can find him. Wave 3 did a story on me this past week. So if you have heard about it, I wanted to let you know. And my biggest concern about all this is that there are these payroll companies that will actually issue checks if you call them without collecting the money first. They issue a check, and then what ends up happening is this goober, whoever's impersonating me, can cash the check, and then they'll call this guy thinking it's me and ask for reimbursement for those checks, and he's nowhere to be found. This is the
Wow.
first time, but I think it. So
Wow.
I have now up to, I think it's 17 different payroll companies, not only in Louisville but around the United States, who are calling me because they're doing their due diligence smartly, and I tell them it's a scam. And luckily now with Wave 3 story and the Better Business Bureau online, if you do a search, it'll pop up for local person getting scammed or trying to get scammed. I'm not out any money. It's just a problem, and I'm concerned about these payroll companies on the hook. Who knows what their outgoing monies are? And then just to think that there's this type of ridiculousness in the world. I'm really I know my name is known, and I realize that you're a target to a lot of people. But for this to happen to me, I'm shocked. I really am. I never thought it would be like this. Any questions, thoughts, guys?
Have they dubbed your voice or anything using
Using
AI?
I? No, not that I know of. In fact,
Okay.
I've been told by many of these people who have reached out to me, the guy sounds Russian and deep and can't even pronounce my last name correctly because he doesn't live in this area. So there you go. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that something? I know.
So scary. Wow.
It is. And I tell you all this, listeners, because I want you all to be aware that this could happen to you. You don't have to have a radio show. You don't have to be a top real estate agent in the city of Louisville and Southern Indiana. It could be you anywhere. Identity theft is a real problem. I would get, luckily, again, my wife, LaDonna, through her company at Baptist, enrolled me with this company that does identity theft protection a while ago. So I have that going for me. But for those of you who don't, it might be interest to sign in, find a reputable identity theft company to protect your assets and your family. So.
Well, thank you for letting us know that
Yeah.
happened. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do. That's why I took a few minutes to let everybody know. All right, we are out of time. I want to thank Cora Henderson, who is one of the head shots, big shots over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. They do a great job of getting your loan closed. If you would like to talk to Cora and have your loan closed or wills or whatever she can do for you, 895-9900. Also, Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service. They come in as a team, not only with the Home Team Inspection, but also Team Bug Out to get rid of pesky pests. You can reach Brad at 844-411-TEAM. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the future or buying a home, I would love to be able to help you. It's me. I come out. We'll talk. It's free, no obligation, no home too big, no home too small. Both the Louisville and surrounding counties in Southern Indiana. You can reach me on my cell phone anytime at 376-5483. That's 376-LIVE. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form, hit submit. And for that free instant analysis of what your home is worth using our computer, you can go to WeSellLouisville.com, click on the top of the page, and fill out that information. We're out of time. Have a great Sunday. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.